Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll. Bring the noise.
I really don't know what they're saying there. That is a lack of understanding of football. But the officials, as I said, really, really poor today.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the E-Tims podcast. My name is Desi, and I am glad to say tonight I am joined by our resident tactician, Hector Bandito. Good evening, Hector.
Evening, guys.
Thank you very much, Hector. And the man who has just finished his massive worldwide scouting mission to South Asia, Monty C. Burns. Good evening, Monty. Welcome back.
Evening, Desi. Evening, lads.
How was it, Monty? Have we got any names in the frame for the summer signings?
There was a guy playing for FC Seoul, Jesse something, Lin something. But I never got to that game, actually. We were on our way back from a tour to the demilitarized zone that particular day, Desi. So you can pick up a few actors up there, all right. But it seemed to be, by the way, the Olympic Stadium in Seoul, or the World Cup Stadium, sorry, they seem to have quite a significant following. And it wasn't that expensive either, but we just didn't get back in time. It was like £8 for a ticket. So unfortunately, that leg of the scouting trip fell by the wayside. Although there's a side street in Itaewon which has certain bars that there was plenty of scouting done at those. So we'll maybe talk about that later.
Yes, if anyone's looking for
off the air.
If anyone's looking for tips, please. The C in Monty C. Burns now stands for Crack House. Apparently, that is the name of the Irish bar.
Itaewon and so.
He's telling us that's the name of the Irish bar, but believe that if you like, folks. Right, so obviously we are here to talk about Celtic tonight. It's been a while since we talked together. Hector and I had the joy of talking to Callum from the Washington Celtic Supporters Club recently, awaiting the big trip for Celtic over to North America in the summer. But we are now heading in towards the end of the season and a very big game coming up. But before we get to that, Hector, a quick recap of the games that have passed since we last chatted. So we beat Motherwell 3-1 away. We beat Dundee 7-1 at home. We beat Livy 4-2 in the Cup. We beat St Johnstone 3-1 at home, and we beat Livy away. But the most notorious game over them all was a 2-0 defeat to Hearts, where there was, of course, a controversial sending off and an even more controversial, I dare say, dodgy penalty. The way things football goes, that game has ultimately impacted this game coming, the Rangers game, because of course it ended up with Rodgers taking the fresh step, and I'm sure Monty was glad to see it, of Rodgers actually coming out and citing John Beaton on VAR, costing us the game. What were your thoughts on that, Hector, if you remember at the time and now?
Yeah, I remember it quite clearly. We had started to find a wee bit of form. And actually, the third part was the biggie. We're losing 1-0 at half time. We were appalling. And then I think Carter Vickers came on the second half, and suddenly it's as if it freed up the whole team. Midfield just stepped up the pitch 20 metres. Could you leave him 1v1? There's hardly any threat. And we're out winners by victory by late win. So that started building momentum. Thumped Dundee, momentum's getting built. They lost to Motherwell on the Saturday, didn't they? At Ibrox 2-1. And then it's set up for Sunday. We go to Tynecastle, we win, and we go top of the league on the Sunday. So you can imagine the expectations are pretty high. We actually got an early penalty. It was a penalty. Was it soft? Yeah, but it was a penalty. Don't think there's much debate about it. And then just a series of events just started to unfold, and this is where the game's been refereed, not by the guy on the pitch, but by somebody sitting in a wee office, probably, fun enough, not far from Ibrox, the wee office. Apparently it's over that side of the city. And it was frustrating. It's been happening for quite some time now, but especially here in Scotland in particular, when it comes to one or two specific teams. And the first one, Yang. Yep, Yang, young guy, ball came over, put his foot up. But here's the thing with these things. If the foot's up with the stud and there's any sort of intent or danger, absolutely, it's a red. Watch that replay 1,000 times. Yang's got the tip of his toe up to try and just flick the ball over the Hearts guy who's ran in. He's streetwise the Hearts player. He's run in with his head. I think he's played for it and he's done his job, I suppose. But for the ref to book him, fair enough, the ref's done his job. But for Beaton to then call him over and say, by the way, I think that's a red card offence, have a look at that again. And then what the referee gets shown isn't the real time, isn't the play leading up to it. It's a still image. And it looks in a still image, right, as if Yang's basically kicked him in the face. And it just shows you how VAR can distort things and present to a referee the image they want. And that's why it's hard for referees, because if he's getting shown that and doesn't act on what he's shown as a still image, then he'll be then he can be rightly criticised. So he's in a no-win situation at times, these referees, when they look at that. Whereas they show them the whole play 4, 5, 6 times, then I don't think there's any debate about yellow card. Even worse was the penalty.
Yeah.
I mean, the ball's at the edge of our box inside the penalty area. Two of our players got up for it. Iwata being one of them. And he's nudged. His back's against the ball. He's nudged, and it comes down and hits his arm. And again, Beaton's asked, or not asked, he's probably said to the referee, look, come and look at that. And once more shows a still image without all the lead-up play to it, and a penalty is awarded. So if it's 10v11 on near enough on half-time, I'd have every confidence would have got something from Tynecastle, possibly even the 3 points. But the whole game, that penalty in particular, just transformed the whole game. And it just shows you how the importance of, and I know there's lots of countries complaining about VAR and the officials, I get that. We see the EPL as well, they've got professional referees and they still get things wrong. But I think up here, it's to a level that is way beyond anything shit down there. And it's usually 2 or 3 of the same key subjects. And what I mean by that is John Beaton and Andrew Dallas. These are the guys in VAR who consistently are given decisions in favour of a certain team or against a certain team. And it's proven quite pivotal so far. If you look at all the points this season, it's quite pivotal. And I know we've not been great, but at the same time, anyone who hasn't looked at these decisions and seen its impact from the season so far, sorry folks, have a wee step back and look at it. There must be several points this season that's been impacted by these guys interrupting the game and trying to get a referee to change their mind on something. So make your own mind up. I think we all have. And what's at play here?
Yeah, I think there has been a lot of commentary, and I get all the analysis guys, especially Alan at Celtic Big Numbers. He's done a great job actually just putting up facts. We're saying, look at this, they're corrupt or they're biased. It's just here's the facts, here's simple stats, and here's your outlier, this massive big flashing outlier of Rangers. But just to stick with the whole Hearts game, Monty, you're very much the culture man in the team. Do we think there's been a culture shift at Celtic, as in we're going to take a lead here, or is it we're just not going to take this anymore? Or do you think Brendan was just pissed off at that point of saying, fuck this, I'm just going to call this out? Whereas he's normally the diplomat, the guy who would kind of keep his peace and move on.
I think part of it, Desi, is you get to a point where you go all in, and I think that's effectively what's happened with Rodgers. There's a pattern of different commentary from him over the last 3 or 4 months, going back to November, December, when, if the rumours are true, he's told a load of boys they can leave because they're just not going to be there. He called them out at one stage too, I think, around being soft, not that long before that. And I think when you stack all the pieces up, we've had a real shit run. Funny, I was thinking about this the other day. We've had a really, really poor run of injuries, and we're now getting people back. And Hector talked about that repeatedly in the podcast. We've lost our spine for most of the season. And Hattadi being out, Carter Vickers being out, McGregor being out, etc., etc. So we're in a scenario now where I think you force that culture change. You create now what's a very obvious sort of, not a siege mentality, but a sense of grievance. Because let's face it, as Hector pointed out, the sent off was never sent off. The penalty was more ridiculous. The penalty was just blatant cheating. There's no other way of calling it. It was even worse than the Bernabei incident from last season. Remember, against Dundee United at home? It's even worse than that. And they're doing it now without any gall or without any sort of... They don't care. I mean, if you think about it, for Sunday, we have a former Rangers, supposed Rangers season ticket holder is the referee and a Rangers franchise owner is the VAR. In what other footballing environment does that happen? So the best way to tackle that is, you hammer the hammer, as they say in GAA. Go after their paranoia with even fucking more paranoia and hit them hard with it and call them out. And it's the first time, as you say, Rodgers has kind of broke rank and become the less tranquil character. So it'll be interesting to see what type of result we get. But I don't mean result on Sunday. I mean what type of result Rodgers gets in terms of response. But when you add Carter Vickers back into the equation, Hattadi back, and most likely McGregor coming back as well, and then add that bit of come on the fuck here, I think it's a clever move from him, but time's going to tell that.
By the way, just sorry, Desi, in the team and Brendan at times this season have merited criticism. Some of it deserved. Some of it I think has been unfair, as Monty touched upon, because we've had so many. We don't have this squad of 16 strong players. We've got about 4 or 5 absolutely fundamental players to how we play. And we all know who they are. It's pretty much the spine of the team to a large degree. And when they're missing, we can't backfill the experience. We've had this conversation time and time again. So what I'm getting is that some of the criticism at times, absolutely. We watch the same, we go to the games, the home games, Desi, we watch the same football. I get it. Some of it's been unjustified. So, for example, the Hearts game, it's as if some Archie supporters had forgotten why it became a 2-0 loss. These are fundamental decisions that totally transformed the game. Totally. And I go back to my point. If we'd have got to half-time 10v11, and the way he sets up, usually it kind of has Dyson almost in that striker left wing doing the 2 roles, and Kyogo being the man up the middle. But should have probably come. I know, but he's big. The other big fella played up front as well. And Kyogo come on. But what I'm getting is that he seems to have information with 10. I had every confidence we'd have got something. I'm not saying we'd have won, but we'd have got something for the game. And if they gave me a few quid to bet in it, I think we'd have probably sneaked a goal there, at least one goal to get a victory. Brought them up on us and picked them off in the counter. Whereas we had to come out and go at them in the second half with 10 men. It doesn't really work that way. So, but these are fundamental decisions that impacted that game there. And John Beaton was the guy that did it. Brendan Rodgers calls him out. Brendan Rodgers is sided with the SFA. Fair enough, just before we're due to go to Ibrox, give it a week. He's given a 2-game ban. Celtic apparently hire this King's Counsellor again. I forget the guy's name. He comes over to Glasgow. He's involved in a lot of the other sports cases. We've got a 1-game ban, reduced to 2-1, and 1 game suspended. So, but what I'd like to see, and this is the thing that frustrates me and probably most supporters of all clubs, is there was no output from that meeting. Where's the output? Where's the transparency? Here's what we cited for. Here was the decision made. Here was the evidence provided. Why is none of this ever shared? By Celtic through other sources. Nothing's ever shared.
Well, it's that whole kind of behind closed doors, don't wash our dirty laundry in public. We'll give you the minimum sentence that we can. You appear to get a slap in the wrist. You appear to have some sort of moral victory, but we'll be happily to sneak away without getting additional call-outs. No, because again, the talk was Celtic, this big kind of list of previous facts and figures about where these outliers and these various examples where things were clearly no quite right. But what about Crawford? Well, is it Crawford Allen? Is that his name? So he's leaving. You know what I mean? Is he just the ceremonial? We have to have a body like Mark kind of Lawwell having to go after the transfer window.
He's ahead of the referees, Desi. So I mean, he's the main man there, isn't he?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So there's always a head must always roll for these things. So is that what he is? Literally, he's been given we'll let you gently leave. We'll give you some gardening leave and just go, and then you can go. And it's the same as what was the other one? Stuart, remember the Neil Doncaster, the other side of Neil Doncaster, Mr. Armageddon when the Huns went under. What was his name again? Remember?
Stuart Regan.
Remember, he disappeared to run something like Yorkshire Cricket Club or something. Utterly hopeless, but somehow they still land on their feet. They get a lovely big payoff and still land on their feet. So it's that kind of self-protection. Sorry you have to leave, but don't worry, we'll give you a good reference regardless of you being absolutely shit. You know what I mean?
something, Desi. There's certainly something in the organisational corruption. I mean, let's call it what it is. There's an old boys network there. We talk about the Ayrshire Referee Society and all that, but there's a counterweight to it for the Hearts game, and it's one of those ones where if you look after yourself, they really can't harm you. Where if Ida scores that penalty, that passage of play, that ball never comes out to Yang, and he doesn't get sent off. And if you take that objectively, it's almost like if you needed a spark to go and just do your fucking dirty tricks, there it is. You know, and that intervention, and myself and a mate were talking about this at the weekend actually, they don't have to just continuously penalise us. You know, at the weekend, there's an incredibly soft penalty given for Rangers, which Michael Stewart was doing his nut on at Ibrox. All they have to do is just, as Hector pointed out, decisions that favour one team coupled with decisions that penalise us. And that's institutional. That's not just one or two guys. As I pointed out, the refereeing setup for this Sunday's game is literally a former season ticket holder and a franchise owner of Rangers. That's who they are. That doesn't happen anymore.
Here's a good wee example of that. Even go back to the weekend's game at Livingston there in the first half. Was Kyogo in the penalty box, and in real time, in real time we're watching it. You think, okay, was he fouled in real? No, the first time we seen it, we're obviously watching the TV. Was he fouled? Then it showed you 2 or 3 replays. Angles weren't great. The 2 or 3 replays they showed, but one in particular, well, he's come through the back of Kyogo there. But it was the quickest VAR check ever done. Is it Alan Muir? Another one that's one of this. Yeah. Remember Alan Muir was the guy that missed the handball in the Hampden goal line against Inverness? Remember that was Alan Muir who was the official behind the goal line at that point. And Alan Muir's another one. He's like Dallas and like Beaton in terms of whose favourites are, and that's been well known for a long time. I'm not just making that one up. But there's an example. Then literally no sooner had VAR said, oh, no penalty, nothing to see here. It was so quick, right, that Sky showed another angle within about 10 seconds from the other side, and it clearly shows you the guy going through the back of Kyogo. So it made me think, did he even see that angle, or did he quickly say to the referee, play on, without considering all the angles he had at his disposal? But there's another example. And so we know if that had happened at in Celtic's penalty box, there's a very strong chance a penalty at Livingston. If that had been Rangers attacking, it'd been a penalty to Rangers. It's not even us just being part of it, but the facts are there. The facts and the evidence, as you mentioned, Desi, that Alan Morrison's put out there, they're there in black and white. And, you know...
And things that are statistically significant, as Alan calls it, things that are the outlier, when they're statistically significant, there's a reason why they're statistically significant. They're not flukes. And that other brilliant phrase that he coined, a pattern of assistance. When you have all of that information and data, which is objective, that the data doesn't lie. It's fucking, these are just facts. Then you have to then question the motives for Celtic not being stronger, especially given that our CEO is a lawyer. Which this is again one of the most fundamentally puzzling things about. And it was great actually listening to the podcast that you did with the guy from Washington.
Callum.
He touched upon it too, something we've been banging a drum about for months with Callum. He said they're at the level of their ability. The people who run our football club are at the ceiling of their ambition and ability. They don't see how taking the data and being a little bit more forceful in protecting our interests would actually be to their benefit. They're like fucking serfs. They're like acquiescent serfs. They just doff their fucking cap and accept it as if somehow it's a moral high ground. But it's not. We're being fucking cheated, and we've been cheated since I've been fucking a Celtic fan for 50 years born. We're touching upon the work, the great work that Alan Morrison's done. One of my view, the best data analyst of the Celtic fans by quite some distance. He's really methodical, as you said there, Monty. He actually, which is really difficult because football being such an emotive and subjective matter. So our team, we've all got our own biases. That's being a football fan.
but he actually breaks it down almost impartially as you possibly can. And he did was it an hour or so on a podcast recently with Paul John Dykes and Axel, and I watched it and it was really, really, really interesting. But there was many things, but the one that stuck in my head at the end of it was, of all the graphs, the piece of data was round about how many times a team has to get into the other team's penalty area before a penalty is awarded. So basically, it might mean, so say we're playing Livingston at the weekend, right? And over the course of the season, Livingston's got to get into the other team's box, say 160 times. And every 160 times they get a penalty. So that's data, that's facts, that's evidence. It's not an opinion, total facts. So the average that a team has to get into the penalty box, no matter who they're playing in the Scottish League, is around about 150 times, 140, 150 times, right? So I think Celtic's was, it stuck in my head because a snooker, 147, it was 147, right? And it's every time a team's at Celtic's spot, every 147 time on average, their opponents get a penalty. So most other teams in the Scottish League were just below Celtic, 130, slightly above 150, 160. I think there was two outliers. One was over the last few years, I think it was Dundee United, was about 200 times or roughly. But there was a major outlier. But remember, the average was about 140, 150 times. The major outlier was a team from Ibrox, and it was over 350 times you had to get into their penalty box before you got a penalty. Just actually let that sink in. Just let that data, that facts, that evidence sink in. We had 140, 150 is an average, over 350 times their penalty box before a referee will award a penalty. That's astonishing.
Right, I was just thinking there. Well, Monty was talking about how we've all experienced this all of our lives. It's always been the Ernie Walker, Jim Farry, and no doubt before your Tiny Whartons or whatever, long before it's institutional blah, blah,
I've got a story about him, I'll tell you off air.
Yeah, right, okay, you just mind me of something else. Let me make a quick note before I forget, because that ties in with our subject we're coming to. It's institutionalised, it's the way it's always been. So that made me think, Monty, I was reading a wee bit today about various things that have been going on in Northern Ireland and the kind of closer ties with Southern Ireland and the whole, as we're moving forward to
Monty, he called it Northern Ireland.
No, right, and the classic breed them out kind of. So what about Celtic starting a refereeing academy? Because obviously, so is it a case of Celtic should actually turn around and go, we're going to devote 250 grand and we're going to produce 10 top level referees within the next 5 years.
April Fool's Day was 3 years ago. You're 3 days late with that.
Think about it, Mr. Sugar.
And kicked into the long grass. Don't be mental.
My name's Desmond and I'm looking for £100,000 for 10% of my company, timmalloyreferee.com. I mean, I'm just saying it's as if I was in a meeting the other day and they said, don't come to me with problems, come to me with solutions. There's a solution to your problem. If you want good non-biased referees, create good non-biased referees. I'm just saying this is the questions that should be getting asked at Celtic.
Aye, no through Celtic. I get your point.
And other clubs.
Obviously no through Celtic, but an independent company, sorry, no, that was for you, sorry, Monty John. But an independent company is absolutely to fast track and train. We've discussed this before. The amount of football players who have played Championship, League One, who have been super fit, their careers come to the end at early 30s, mid-30s at a push. They've got 15 years left. And they know the game, they've played the game, they've got respect with players, they know when a foul's a foul and a player's at it. Why these guys aren't fast-tracked to become referees? You're not going to get guys to play for Celtic Rangers, right?
It's poacher gamekeeper, that, but I don't know if that argument works.
But look at most of your referees. How many of them have actually played football? Willie Collins, a referee, he's kicked him on his puff.
Sorry, Hector, I know, I appreciate totally what you're saying, but it is the old those who can do, those who can't ref. You know what I mean? It's that old classic, that football phase. So so why don't you see more ex-footballers becoming refs? Because I don't imagine the door's totally closed. I don't unless the entry level for referees. Again, we don't know. If there's any referees listening, please feel free to let us know. But again, is it a case of you need to be, say, a C-level ref or a Sunday pub league referee level by 21. You know what I mean? Is there certain criteria for referees? I don't know. I'm just saying, as in, so like a professional footballer maybe gets injured at 23, right? You're at the game. As you say, you think he would be a perfect candidate to start playing, start becoming on the referee fast track. But again, the referees apparently, and I'm making air quotes here, folks, referees apparently given the clubs before every season to kind of give overviews on new laws and to be explicit in how things are being interpreted, etc., etc. So it's a different skill set rather than just being able to run up and down the park all day. You know what I mean? I appreciate that, but there's clearly an issue. There's clearly an issue. As you say, Monty, facts don't lie, numbers don't tell any tales. There's clearly an issue here. So I'm just asking, what would be our solutions? The
obvious answer to this, there's two pieces to the puzzle that will probably never happen, because until you have that root and branch fundamental change in culture in the SFA, it's not happening. But if you wanted to fix it, the decision to go with VAR Lite from a monetary perspective is just bananas. It has made a bigger laughing stock of the quality of the Scottish game. That's just that's not even subjective. I think it's, when you look at how it's applied, when you look at the squiggly lines and all that nonsense, it's fucking amateur art. So solution number one, pay the money. If VAR is going to be a thing, pay the money and put in proper VAR. Solution number two, pay good money and source your referees from outside Scotland. It's as simple as that. Because now you have a completely objective, and let's call it educated. Educated is not the best word, but it is educated. An educated referee in the laws of the game. He couldn't give a fuck whether it's Motherwell v Hibs or Celtic v Hearts, or doesn't care. He's there to apply his or her, not interpretation, but application of the laws of the game. And I think that, to be fair, when Hector's talking about the ex-pros going into the game, I mean, let's be honest, they're not exactly sharp in the head apart from football. And I think there's an education gap there that does mean that a lot of them just won't touch it. And on top of that, then the culture and how they're treated. And we talked a lot, I know, in previous podcasts. Look at how a rugby referee is spoken to by his players, on the players on the pitch. It's fucking proper, sir, proper know your place, and the referee is all powerful, supported by people who are actually more powerful than him in terms of things that he doesn't see. And there's a huge amount of trust between those officials. It's actually brilliant, but you could never do it in football. Because all the things that make the game brilliant, all the little borderline things that we get away with, VAR is just getting in the way of those too. So actually, removing VAR from Scottish football, Desi, actually would probably, it wouldn't put us any worse off. All they're doing is just fucking hiding behind inappropriate technology, but they're still doing the same cheating.
Yeah, that is a big part of it, isn't it? The re-refereeing games in VAR rather than highlighting honest mistakes. No, that was the plan, was honest mistakes would be highlighted, and we would no longer have the things even themselves out over a season. Right, so Brendan was up in front of the Beaks, as they say. He get the minimum sentence possible, 2 match ban with 1 suspended, so he missed a game at Livingston, I think it was. But the classic Monty, the SFA, I mean, you have to applaud their sheer tenacity, their sheer get it right up ease. They then go and assign John Beaton, arguably the biggest game of the season, at Ibrox with no Celtic fans. Help yourself, John, on you go. Are they creating a rod for their own back, or do they seriously not give one fuck?
I think both, Desi. They don't fucking care. If this is a dinosaur on its way out, it's kind of spotted the incoming comet, and right now it don't give a fuck. Now, how you change something that self-regulates, I have no idea. But I think that's definitely the first part of it. They don't care. But it is a get it fucking right up. And the irony is, if it goes to plan and they win, you'll hear about how good a game John Beaton had. If it doesn't go to plan and we turn them over, you'll also hear about how brilliant a game John Beaton had because he didn't get in the way. But you can write the script here. I mean, the safest bet in football is a penalty to them and Tavernier to take it. Although he's missed quite a few recently. You know that when there's a 50-50 decision on which the game could ride, that we're not going to get that decision. And they'll talk about the pressure of the crowd and they'll make 100 excuses for him, but ultimately the man has severe unconscious or subconscious bias. He can't help it. He just is what he is. And arguably it'd be no different than any one of the three of us refereeing a match at Celtic Park trying to be impartial. You fucking can't be impartial. You just can't.
For some reason, all I can think of, Hector, is Brendan Rodgers as Joe Pesci in Goodfellas at the end when he thinks he's been a made man. He's been congratulating all the good things he's did. He's like, yeah, great. Two heavies walk him into a room and he's like, yeah, where is everybody? Bang in the back of the head. That's how I'm picturing the SFA delivering the news that John Beaton was to be the ref. I mean, thanks for your comments last week, Brendan. Here's two in the back of the skull. You know what I mean? Basically. Hector.
It's a beautiful thing. What Jock Stein always said. We just need to score one more than them and make the referee irrelevant. And if we can build a mentality like that and it carries us over the line this season, then it's a phenomenal trick that Rodgers.
Jock Stein didn't have VAR to deal with.
Right, but that's a great point, Monty, and that brings us onto this week's game, Hector, because I was going to ask you this, right? I would this is just my suspicion or my thoughts on this. Do you not think it's kind of interesting, or is it just a pure coincidence that they've assigned John Beaton to this game this week, and that is taking every headline, and there's not been anything about the Rangers build-up or the potential for this game? It's been like, let's put the game into the shadows for now. Let's let the referee disaster and other things take care of that, and just let that take care of itself. Because you've not really heard much bravado for a team that can go top of the league with a game in hand, kind of thing.
Have they done the media press conferences this week? I haven't seen Brendan's either. Because you know how normally they'll do it, but I think we've had a lot of midweek games, well, up until the recent international break. So there seems to have been press conferences kind of Monday, Tuesday, and obviously the Friday one. I just haven't seen any press conferences from us either. So I just don't know whether all that will come out tomorrow. And because a lot of us, we don't buy papers anymore. I don't know about the build-up because we're online and we use Twitter and all that. So it seems to be on there. But because we don't really buy the papers, I couldn't tell you what they're saying.
Right. Now. So, okay, fair enough. Again, I was the same, so I've not missed anything. So we'll assume we've not missed anything of particular note, and we've not at least heard of any injuries, but we'll come to the team and the personnel soon. Before that, there's been a few interesting aspects that have happened, especially in the last couple of days. The hate crime law has come in Scotland, right? Has become law on April the 1st, which some people may say was quite apt. But Hector, your old friend, Alan McCoy's, has caught the headlines recently by saying he and 49,000 others would be committing hate crimes come Sunday. But apparently he's not going to the game now. Was that due to your Twitter response, Hector? That's what the public would like to know.
Far be it for me to talk for my friend Alistair, but it was 48,000 he said, not
49,000. Sorry, apologies.
So get it right.
I'm exaggerating again.
You know Ali, he seems to be in every fucking sports channel that's gone, even some that haven't been invented yet, he's on them. And I also think he does the radio station with the other fuckwits on Talksport. Yeah. So obviously I don't listen to that, but obviously he made a comment about the bill coming out and he said, yeah, ridiculous. And some other buffoons like her that wrote the fucking Harry Potter shite, another crank, talking about it, half stories, targeting this, targeting that. And Ali's another one. And basically he said, as you said, so him and 48,000 others are going to be accused of a hate crime. Now, that was interesting, but nobody said to him, can you specifically say what it is, Ali, that you and 48,000 others are going to be singing or shouting on Sunday that would constitute a hate crime? So that was never put to him, right? He got the headlines he wanted. However, it was usual social media rather than our mainstream media who were on the ball with this one, pushing for answers. And lo and behold, the very next day, Ali, God bless his little cotton socks, turns around and says again, I think in the Talksport channel, when asked about it, just so you know, I'm not going to go this Sunday. We're going for a weekend away. So basically, flick a switch. Unbeknown to Ali, we put the comment out, him being him, thinking, here he is, Billy Big Boss, getting pulled on it in social media. He's now decided that at very short notice to go a weekend away so that he can't go to the game and can't be asked what he was going to sing. And it's just a fucking joke. I mean, Brendan Rodgers, when he mentioned the Jane Lewis interview, I think he called her.
Girl.
Was he called her again?
Good girl.
Right, but apparently him and Jane Lewis and a lot of them, they're going well. And she took it, to be fair to her. She came out with it. She wasn't offended by anything. He was almost kind of doorstepped, Rodgers, on something fairly innocuous. There's Ali. Has anyone gone to Ali to say to him, Ali, can you be specific? Nobody, not a fucking soul. And that, again, just demonstrates that there's one law for one and just one law for another, not in terms of the police laws, but just in terms of what they can say in the media and get pulled up on, and others who just get away with murder. And Ali's one of them. So there we go. God bless him.
Neil Warnock, I think, in a follow-up on that, actually talked about the abuse that Rodgers gets from the media. He says he gets absolutely slaughtered up there. You know, and it's just a throwaway remark from someone who didn't have to say that. And I think this comes back to that notion of subconscious bias, the wiring that you have that you don't know you have, that your thought processes occur in such a patterned way that you don't even fucking know you're thinking that way. And I think it happens institutionally in Scotland. And we've a long, long way to go. Like we're coming out the other side. We're what, 25 years, 30 years out of a conflict. And people still think very much in the same way that they were brought up through it. You didn't have a conflict in Scotland, but you have a fucking huge and Phil McGill talks about this. There's a huge institutionalized anti-Irish, and I wouldn't call it anti-Catholic, anti-Catholic or anti-Catholicism. There's a huge anti-Irish bias in Scottish society, and there still is. It's melting away generation by generation, but it's still there. And if you're wired to think that somehow you are the people, if you're wired to think that somehow you're better, if you're wired to think, how fucking dare you, I'm your overlord. It happens in so many different institutions in society in Scotland, and indeed in many countries, that they just can't help it. It's what they are. It's what's the old fucking thing? You know, why would you get angry with a fish for not being able to climb a tree? They are what they are. The best thing we can do is look after ourselves and be very, very, as much as being very, very accommodating of things that are external to us, be very, very inward focused on the positive aspects of what we are. And from that, everything will be all right. But this notion of circling the wagons, you know, as I say, hammer the hammer. They want to be paranoid. Give them something to be fucking paranoid about. Let's go after them.
But Desi question. Sorry, Monty. Desi question. Just stepping back, involved with bias. We get that. That's just the nature of the game, especially football, right? But the first question the person on the channel would say to him, Ali, specifically what is it you would be saying that you think would constitute for you and almost 50,000 other people would be a hate crime? He wasn't asked it. I mean, the question's just staring you straight in the face, and he's not asked it. And you think, well,
but you know why? Do you know why, Hector? Whoever was in
but was TalkSport not be? Is that not the London or English channel though? It's not as if it's Scottish people that's in the studio with them, is it? It's not guys down south.
Ali was always
Brazil.
Aye, he's on Alan Brazil's show, I think.
Why would you not ask the question then?
But that's it. I guarantee you, Brazil's not the sharpest in the box either. But if he thought about asking that question, I will guarantee you that at editorial level, someone in his ear will say, move the conversation on now. Get it off that subject. Too close to the bone. Too close to something.
He spoke for the best part of a minute.
Aye, but
on about how the world was against people like fucking him.
Aye, but the thing is, within that conversation, someone with editorial accountability has said, close this down. The minute he shuts up, move on to another topic. Because once you engage on that, you're now complicit. This is the fucking subtlety of this notion of bias in media. You see it with the genocide that's being committed in Palestine. You see how it's being reported. It's not the fucking health ministry. It's the Hamas-run health ministry. Reported from... This semantics is a fucker of a thing. And when you think like that, when you're wired like that, you automatically just behave like that. So you're right, Hector. The obvious question was, explain to me what you mean by 48,000 people breaching hate crime law. But what exactly is it that will breach hate crime law? But it opens up such a fucking can of worms that the idiots on TalkSport and their idiot fucking by and large thick listenership, they don't want to hear about it. They want to hear a bit of a wind up and jokey fucking stuff and bullshit, banter. They're not interested in a genuine, honest, and not intellectual, just an intelligent conversation about what constitutes hate. Because I'll throw a controversial one at you, by the way. I don't believe that singing the sash is a breach of a hate crime. I think singing the Billy Boys is right on the borderline of it, but I'm not quite sure that I would be actively agitating and saying that that's a hate crime. In the same way that
if they're singing fuck the Pope.
Fuck the Pope, now that's different because that's very, very clearly defined. That's what Ali was talking about. Let's be blunt about it, right? Would have been the add-ons. That's really it. The add-ons.
Right? We all know that's it. We all know that's it, right?
But the thing
As
is,
you say, if it's for the sash, they don't even have to sing that anymore. If it's going to be for their UVF stuff, that's no a hate crime. That's me to agree with them. But so it's got to be religious, or it's got to be based upon. Let's call it anti-Irish or anti-Catholic, or the famine song. If they still sing it, I hate even using that term, the famine song. But I don't even know if they sing that anymore. But the one thing that they do sing regularly is "fuck the Pope." They do.
And the add-on,
that should be a fucking hate crime.
And it's glibly thrown away. It's glibly thrown out. So this is what I mean about cultural bias and inherent bias. And it's incredible when the fucking mob mentality takes over. And I know we've talked about, we get fucking vile in the heat of certainly before they got liquidated, because they're not as relevant to me as they were before they got liquidated. You got whipped up into the frenzy. You got fucking utter things that going, Jesus, did that come out of my mouth? But that feels so fucking 50 years ago now. We're way, way past that. But our fear of having an intelligent debate, and when I say our fear, it's not our fear. You know, I'd love to get 3 intelligent fucking birds, if you could find them, to join us in a podcast and debate it. But no one in the media wants to touch that now, Hector. It's not good for clicks. It's not good for the banter. So from that position onward, the inherent institutional bias will be allowed to continue to live, no different than Celtic's complicity in the 5-way agreement allowed a fundamentally biased institution to continue to live. So we end up in
Desi, Desi, is Ali going to watch the game with you on Sunday?
Yeah, well, mate, let me just read a few paragraphs. I went to look up the comment there while you were talking, just to see what the comment actually was. So I've ended up on freeaddedminutes.com, some site, and it's talking about Ali and the hate crime bill, right? So the final 2 paragraphs I think are really well written. Listen to this. Bear with me here, right? It talks about Ali's entitled to his own opinions, and it says, but equally, there can be no excuse for the nonchalant and derisive manner in which the pundit, a genuinely decent bloke by all accounts, hoisted a proverbial middle finger at an earnest attempt to quell public displays of resentment and division. Hateful language doesn't have to be illegal for it to be morally wrong, and if you don't consider the prospect of attending a football match, even one as bitterly charged as Old Firm, without saying something that might cause offence, then you need to take issue with yourself, not with the pencil pushers in Hollywood. This is the best bit. As for McCoist, we can only hope that this is not the first teetering domino and a slow descent towards the kind of zombified grifferdom that has infected Joey Barton, Lawrence Fox and countless others in recent years. If by this time next month he is popping up in podcasts hawking CBD gummies, and what a good night's sleep I had, by the way, alongside Matt Letizia, we will know that we have lost him for good. Somehow I don't think it will. So that's a beautiful image, isn't it? That
was perfect. Perfect, right? Perfect. By the way,
that was freeaddedminutes.com, so well done, freeaddedminutes.com.
Get them followed on Twitter if we've got an account, Desi, right?
Exactly.
I was going to say, interesting enough, sorry, that person, whoever wrote that, said, let's hope it's not the first step in Ali following the well-trodden shoes of Matt Letizia. Can I just say, though, last, was it autumn, we played England in a game, to mark 150 years of Scottish, or the oldest international world football at Hampden Park. And the Scotland fans roundly booed God Save the King. And it was on Channel 4, I think it was. And it was McCoist and Souness, of all people, and whoever else was there. But McCoist came out after the game and criticised the Scotland fans for booing God Save the King. He said it was a disgrace that they booed it. So I think Desi Ali's already started that path 9 months or so ago, and now he's sadly veering more and more to the right in each passing week.
Yeah, so that was written by Jason Jones at 3addedminutes.com, and Jason Jones is at JWJones57 on Twitter. So well done for that, Jason. That was a great piece of writing. Right, so I've got a quick question for you, a wee joke for you, Hector. I know you like your humour. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Liel Abada.
Welcome.
So do you remember Liel Abada?
No.
That poor guy who was chased out of Celtic by those really bad certain supporters. I loved how the media kept saying certain fan groups. You know what I mean?
Well, see the certain fan groups, see these fuckers that say that pish. When he came on after the break he had, and he came on, he was the round of applause, the cheering he got for him, right, was incredible. The active support from the Celtic fans was incredible. So to be fair to Abada, I don't think Abada's actually come out and said anything negative. In fact, was it no last week? He said he enjoyed his time here. But listen, he's gone. Best decision, because I think the game at Easter Road was the straw that broke the camel's back for him, wasn't it? He was Hibs' best player. We can laugh because we won due to a 93rd minute fucking goal. But he came on, he was appalling. But I think the wee man's head was gone. And Rodgers, I think managed him quite well and worded it really well. And it was best for all that he moved on. And by the way, by the sounds of it, we got a bloody good transfer fee for him as well. So everyone, I think, did well out of it in the end. So thanks for the first year or so, wee fella. He's a young boy as well. We forget these guys are 21, 22, right? If there's somebody 21, 22, my boys, my daughter, one boy's is just under 20, 22. And it'd be like talking to him. And you forget that sometimes these guys are young guys, right? So thanks for what he did. Best for all that he moved on.
Right, but the reason I came to you rather than Monty, he's went to Charlotte, and you are basically living in North Carolina for 6 months of the year these days. So are you now a Charlotte FC fan?
No, there's a far better team in North Carolina called North Carolina FC, Desi. They're based out of kind of Raleigh. And I mentioned this in the last podcast. You've got Raleigh, you've got Durham, and you've got where Celtic's going to Chapel Hill. They call it the Triangle there. And NCFC, they've got. We hear this. They've got 16,000 registered players throughout their grassroots. 16,000. And I think over here we understandably so, Celtic and Rangers and other clubs. There's not anyone in Scotland could come anywhere near the side. So they're in Division 2 in the States, just so you know. So that's the team. North Carolina FC. Hold
on. So Monty, you won't really appreciate this, but Hector is a former East End boy. Well, 16,000 registered players. That used to be the Celtic youth setup. Remember when they used to have the trials and they would just sign everybody, and then eventually they would whittle it down to 30 players for the summer league. You know what I mean? It used to be all the trials for Celtic. Yeah, everybody signs tonight.
But the women's game has been bigger than the men's, or the girls and the boys. And in essence, when we say players, it's boys and girls, and it's pretty much, honest to God, it covers the wider Raleigh radius of 30 mile. It's massive. So they're the team. So fuck Charlotte.
Okay. So fuck Charlotte, aye. And that is no reflection whatsoever on the current crisis in the Middle East. It's purely because he's a North Carolina fan. Right, Monty, I know you have been away on various scouting missions, but have you got to appreciate the marvellous ramping up of the young man Kuhn's form? He's went from get him to fuck to what a player all of a sudden.
Yeah, I've got to watch a couple of the games recently, and he really does look direct. He seems to be, he's not shy on doing the work back always. He covers himself well defensively, and he strikes you as that type of player that there's more in him. You know, you're watching him at the minute, you know he's going to get stronger, and if we picked him up for $3 million, judging him at the minute on the fact
Don't
that he's
jinx him, for fuck's sake.
No, I'm not. I said judging him at the minute when we know he's not 100% is maybe not the most appropriate thing to do, but signs look good. And I believe also Palma might be close to coming back if I didn't misread that. So there's nothing like a bit of competition as well to keep someone who's on the up, keep them going. But yeah, great to see. And he wasn't back.
Sorry, yeah, okay, exactly, because Yang had came back and he'd really been inspirational recently, and then he got his ban, and then Kuhn's hit form. But again, Kuhn, I don't think a lot of people appreciated. Rodgers kept trying to tell everybody he lost a stone in weight, and if you're a wee guy, if you're a wee explosive winger, losing a stone in weight's a monumental impact on your physical being, you know what I mean? And the whole kind of getting back up to speed, getting back up to that explosiveness is what he relies on. But as you say, he's putting the work in. He seems to be really the whole kind of positioning on the field. We just need him ghosting into the back post now. He's more of the cutting in and curl into the top corner style by the looks at it. But that would be nice.
He did that against St Johnstone, wasn't it?
Yep.
Kyogo put a beautiful ball and he kept sprinting in, didn't he, for the second goal?
So that would be nice to see at the weekend.
Sorry, Desi. There's another thing too that we're maybe not taking into account. Well, we took it into account when Harry Kewell left, just around his influence on the forward players, especially when we hit that particularly bad lull of form. Rodgers brought in that coach. I can't even mind the guy's name. Like Nightingale or something like that. He brought in his former Leicester City coach, kind of under the radar. And it looks almost like our play, we look like we're stretching the pitch a bit more for me. That our wingers are really, really staying out. And I don't know, maybe it's just me just looking through a different sort of view of the thing. But one of the criticisms we would have had when we were in that poor run of form was, we just didn't look like a team that was well coached. We're starting to look again like we kind of know where we're meant to be on the pitch. And maybe it is personnel, Desi. Maybe it is the fact that it's Kuhn's coming in and he's coming on to a game. I mean, Forrest even looked particularly sharp when he came on at the weekend too.
It's personnel, Monty. I think you said that at the start. I think the personnel is the key to this, because how we play, we want to move the ball forward quickly from defence through mid. But us having an effect, our entire back four unavailable, and then they made one available. So that's why guys are backup players. They're not the same level of a Carter Vickers or Alistair Johnston. They don't move the ball at pace into midfield. And I think it's as simple as that. Our better players are back now. And even in midfield, I know he only gets 60 minutes at the weekend, but Desi's I think we all have it. Desi in particular absolutely adores Liel Abada, because he's one of those players, and you just got to watch the game. And people think there's a lot of square balls in football. There is. Keep possession for the sake of keep possession. I get it. And they'll do the old, down one side, not the other, almost a horseshoe. Most teams do it. Man City do it as well if you watch them often enough. But what Liel Abada gives us that is kind of unique-ish, certainly in Scottish football, is that his first instinct's always to turn forward with the ball. There's not many players do that. And by doing that, defenders, as you know, you play at a reasonable level, they hate that. They want a guy just to bounce it, do the safe pass and bounce it. He's the opposite. He's a risk taker. And being a risk taker, if you get guys with pace in front of him, and we've got the pace now, you mentioned Kuhn there. I mean, one thing he looks really fast. We get Dyson, you get Kyogo. You've now got a guy who will turn, and first chance he gets is to put one of them through, those three through, or to put it through to Matt O'Reilly, who might be playing just off as a 10, just off the striker. And it transforms how we play. So I think it's players. It's our best players being available again.
Yeah, it was lovely to see that glorious man Hatate back, as you say, Hector. I'm a big fan, and I had to tweet the fact that this watching him let the ball roll over him, it's none of that stop, turn, pause, look up. Everything's in the one motion, and it's literally a tenth of a second rather than 2 seconds, and that's 20 yards in football. I mean, that's a big difference. But I seen someone also mention the other day, it might have been Alan Moss and somebody else, just on a tweet, about how much difference Hatate being there allows Matt O'Reilly to play his own game, rather than having to supplement somebody else and make do. and then you suddenly, so again, the wee things start to click, the dominoes start to fall into place, and then suddenly it could be a case of we get Kuhn and Iwata pulling spaces, and then you get them into the spaces, and then we'll get like a chance of Hatate launching a shot. So prediction time, Monty. How long will it be before John Lundstrom halves Hatate on Sunday? 1 minute, 2 minutes, or 3 minutes? How long will it be before he tries to go through him?
I'm going to go for 3, in that we'll probably kick off, keep the ball.
Is that 3 in 1 minute, or is that 3 minutes?
3 minutes, because we'll try to keep the ball and we'll knock it about at the back a bit and just settle it down. But the minute he gets it, I'd say, yeah, certainly within 3, Desi, which is a very safe answer. But I'm going to say in minute 3.
Yeah, I do have a feeling, Hector, it's going to be one of those classic Scott Brown games whereby Rangers players get away with, say, 8 tackles, and then as soon as the Celtic player makes the first tackle, it's a booking. No, that way the ref will give it the classic, I've had enough of this. He's as bad as each other, but I'll book the Celtic player for his first tackle.
Yep.
So Hector, on you go, Monty.
Sorry, Desi. Sorry, Hector, I jumped in. There's also a thing too around the fact that Iwata has played the last few games and has played very well. And Rogers talked about he just hasn't had a chance, but now he gets a chance. And it's whether you perceive Iwata as being McGregor's backup, or whether you perceive Iwata as being another potential starting midfielder. And he's done nothing to suggest that he's not another starting midfielder in the last few games that he's played. And he's another one who just looks like he's getting better. Now, if the decision's there to be made, you're not leaving your captain out. I mean, no one would do that. But you are upsetting a balance that's been established over the last, 5 games? So I think we'll talk a wee bit more about that, I'm sure. But I think within that personnel comment that Hector made, we're back to having options again in a way that we were really struggling and really thin for a while. And they're decent options. We're not right at the edge of the squad. So yeah, we're
sorry, Hector. Let me just exactly, because that's perfect timing, because that's exactly what I was coming to, Monty. So I put out a tweet the start of this week, maybe the end of this weekend, Hector, and I was talking to a Celtic fan and a Rangers fan the other day, and the Rangers fan said to me, "I think these will beat us because you've got Callum McGregor, and he always rules the game against us." And I said, well, it depends if he's fit or no, etc. And I put it on Twitter, and it was one of the throwaway tweets. But everybody jumped on it to respond, and it was quite interesting. Most people are saying, as you say, Monty, he's your captain, he's one of your best players, he goes right back in. A lot of people are saying Iwata's not done anything wrong. Go with McGregor, start with McGregor, and maybe replace him if he fades out to get a fades fitness wise. So Hector, you are our tactician. You are our football visionary. What's your thoughts?
Callum McGregor must start if he's fit to play.
What level of fitness would you say was you would let him go? What metric? 80%, 90%, 50%?
Oh, how can I answer that? I mean, that's McGregor and Rogers, and the medical team would know that. I mean, if he's only 50%, I don't think any chance of him playing. The fact that Rogers' conference on Friday, he was asked about returning players, and he said Callum's been training with the team all week, but just because they were playing in the AstroTurf pitch at Livy, they wanted to leave him out. But he said he's been full training with the team. So based upon that, he must be ready to start, Desi. See, the 2 games I've played them this season, McGregor's been by a distance the best player on the pitch. At Ibrox, the 1-0 game at the start of the season, he just controlled the game. He just like blowing with a stick. They couldn't get near him. And the game at Celtic Park, he was just by a distance, not even just a wee bit, but by a distance, the best player on the pitch. So if he's fit to play, and all accounts he must start. No offence to Iwata, I like Iwata. Going to Livingston and playing them and going to Ibrox are 2 extremes in terms of your opponent, in terms of the crowd you're up against, and a number of factors, and we all know that, right? I like Iwata. He's demonstrated that he can come in and do a job for us now. And he'll probably be needed on Sunday anyway, because there's no way Rio's going to last 90 minutes. And Callum make the push to even say he's a super fit player. McGregor, as we know, there might be a push to say heel last 90 minutes. So it might well be that Iwata will come on it maybe after 60 minutes for Rio. But if they're all fit, I'd be going with Callum, with Rio, with Matt O'Reilly. I mean, for me, that three picks itself.
Right. Yeah, so could I just pick you up on something there? You can tell. I know you stay in the beautiful northern suburbs these days, but Monty, you can take the boy at the East End, but you'll never take the East End at the boy. Hector's phrase, like playing with a balloon on a stick. I would just like to say, no one in the south side of Glasgow ever played with a balloon on a stick. We all had a real football, mate. We never ran about with a balloon on a stick. But very interesting you said there about McGregor running the show, because previously I always said I never feared us getting beat with Rangers in recent years, because they never had a player in their team better than Scott Brown, because that was always my kind of judge point. And Scott Brown more or less always ran the games. I know, like, he had the vision and the temperament to actually be placed where he needed to be replaced and get people to be where they need to be. And the way McGregor, Monty, has kind of stepped in to the Brown role is really quite special. I mean, like, I don't think anyone saw it. I don't think we overthought it, but I don't think we actually saw it going as smoothly as it's went. And he's went from being the quiet guy to being the actual Scott Brown style leader level. I know he's a different personality, but leader-wise, he's on a level, I'd say, with Scott Brown. Monty.
Yeah, and it's a completely different leadership style, Desi. He's not, I've seen some of Brown's sort of interviews during the week, and they were very funny. He used to shave his head.
I bet his hair,
he just wanted. And these stupid things, but Brown's leadership was probably far more extroverted, very much in your face, very much the panto villain for them, I guess. McGregor's just a really, really good a technician, should I say. He's just a really, really good footballer. And he's also grown into being that wee bit more vocal, maybe a wee bit more gallus. Remember him shouting at Barisic a few years ago, shouting shite bag at him? Was that the 3-0 game?
Yeah. Aye, come on, take me on.
Don't take me on, shite bag. There's that wee bit, but he's also probably at his peak now. As in, if you get another year of McGregor performing for 50-odd games a season the way he's performed up to this point, he'd be doing really, really well, because that engine's got some fucking miles on it now. But from a leadership point of view, there's obviously a drive in him that, the other managers saw as well, and to promote him to captain. If you take him out of the equation, who are we left with? Hart is gone at the end of the year. Carter Vickers has been wearing the armband recently. O'Reilly seems like captain material, but he's probably not going to be here too much longer. So he really is the beating heart of the team, and he really is the on-field leader. But I would disagree to an extent around, with Iwata being in there, how functional we've been. And I know I said this last year, and you correctly gave me pelters for it, but when he was injured, remember, he missed 3 or 4 of the Champions League matches. And I'd say with O'Reilly playing in that number 6, I thought we played better football with McGregor there. I wouldn't say that with Iwata there. We play better football without McGregor, without him being in. But I just think we need him. We need that bit more leadership. We need that wee bit more streetwise. And it's not just for this weekend. It's for the last 7 games, plus the cup games. It's just hopefully...
One of my worries, Desi, is with the midfield 3, and if they're all fit, I'd expect that with the 3 at start is Rio. For all Rio, we all think he's great to watch, but he's never really put a performance on Ibrox. He's never put a performance on Ibrox in the time he's been at Celtic, and that worries me. I don't know whether it's the occasion gets to him, whether he's got less time in the ball because we're over there, whether the noise. But you look at the games we played there, and he's been very, not even just, been very, very poor. So that's my concern with him. It's not so much about him starting. He'd always start in my team, but he's got to raise his game far more than he's done at Ibrox.
Yeah, that's interesting, because he did say during this layoff he's taken a lot of contemplation. He's looked at things like diet, positioning, the whole aspect of his game. He's been reviewing a whole lot and trying to re-educate himself, I think, in respect to where to focus stuff and where to improve. So it will be interesting. We've only saw him back last week at Livy, and he helped create that first goal. So again, so it'll be interesting if he does hopefully turn up at Ibrox, because I think we're all agreed that he definitely will start. You know what I mean? But probably then have to come off. So you're playing Kuhn, so we Palmer see a sub then, or do we stick? And again, Hector, fair play to you. You have came well into the Maeda love camp recently.
Oh, he's fantastic. He's and here's the thing with teams, right? Anyone who the team's about you don't have 11 players with the same skill sets. They're all you have one or two obviously, right? But in essence, and Ange was great at that. Ange would always make sure that he always kept his 4-3-3. But if he replaced a winger by another winger, the other winger wasn't like for like, if that made sense.
Yeah.
One would be more of a dribbling player, one would be more with pace, and one would go outside. And that was really, insightful listening to him talk about that. I think with Dyson, and particularly against them, is you need guys who the starting point is to be an absolute pest and work their socks off, especially at Ibrox. We've no fans there. They win the game, they're in a hell of a strong position at the weekend. So we need guys that will stand up and will give absolute everything they can. And what he's done, unlike Rio, funny enough, what Dyson's demonstrated when we went to Ibrox is that when it comes to Tavernier, and I think Golson's the right-hand centre-back, Tavernier is the right-back, and whoever plays their kind of right mid, I think Goldilocks played there the last time at Ibrox. What's his chops? Who's him that dives all the time? The boy, the blonde hair. Don't know if he's fit again with Rangers.
Todd.
But Dyson, Cantwell, but Dyson tends to the work rate, the pressing levels to put them under so much pressure at the back, and importantly for us, their biggest goal threat apart from penalties is Tavernier is a really good crosser of the ball. He's never a good defender, but his strength is going forward and putting in good crosses. He is a very good crosser. Dyson tends to nullify a lot of that. He doesn't give him in its piece. So for me, he's vital to how we play. I wish some Celtic fans would just take a wee step back. If Dyson could cross a ball, he'd be playing one of the top 5 leagues in Europe. Let's be honest about it. That's why he's with us. He's no get that. And he reminds me a wee bit of for the older ones, Didi Agath, who was on the right hand side. I think it's to do with how fast the guy, the pace they run at. Absolutely, they're like whippets. The pace they go at, you just wonder whether they're just going that fast to get across in at that electric pace they go at. It must be difficult. Because look at the likes of Steve Guppy and Beckham. They would almost the opposite, wouldn't they? They would just have a lot of pace, but they could just take their time and curl a ball. Dyson's opposite, 100 mile an hour. Always been my team, Desi. I think him on the left hand side, I think Kuhn on the right, and Kyogo. For me, the pace and movement with that three, right, could be vital.
You made a good point there about the kind of Celtic fans maybe taking a wee step back. But I think Celtic fans are starting to appreciate, as you say, different players, different skill sets, different positions. And I think that's also benefited Iwata recently, Monty. Whereas I think when Iwata came in, people thought he's going to be a blend of Kyogo meets Hatate, meets Maeda, meets Ideguchi. And he turned out to just be this wee guy who sits and cleans up lovely, gets the ball and moves it on, like a Neil Lennon style. Nothing fancy, but I'll kill the gate, I'll kill the opposition, I'll win the ball back, I'll be in the exact place to stop them coming through the middle of the park. That kind of football-wise. And people, I think, have started to appreciate that way. So, like, after the last few games, you start to see things. I thought Iwata had a good game today. Every now and again, you still thought he was very quiet. But is your defensive midfielder not meant to be kind of quiet, if you know what I mean? It's like the classic referee wasn't involved in the game much. He had a great game on that side. So maybe we are getting educated a little bit better, Monty, and anticipation stroke desperation, isn't it there? Let's be honest, we're all getting a wee bit anxious recently.
Yeah, and I think he's similar to McGregor. He's just a really, really good technician. He's really good on the ball. I remember reading a couple of the players' comments about him in training, just saying how clean he was on the ball, his technique, and he's all. I think they referred to him as Tank. You know, he's obviously a well-built sort of fellow. I just think he's just a good footballer, but he's one of those ones that'll suffer from being just a good footballer because he's not an exceptional attacking mid, or he doesn't score 10 from centre midfield, or he's not a physical defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, where, like, you remember Makelele was probably the best exponent of that art, the French midfielder. and he was tiny and slight, but he would fucking dig about him. He was fast. He could score. Iwata's just, obviously he's not that level. He's one of those players who, as you say, is quietly effective, but he doesn't stand out in any one particular discipline. He's like your championship manager, 7 out of 10 for all attributes in midfielder.
Yeah.
So it's a good one to have.
Desi, question for you then. Who do you make favourites for Sunday?
And this is now, it's no caveats, but if you mentioned there, Maeda's on his game, I honestly think Maeda can terrorise Goldson and Suter. I think Suter's the biggest fucking liability a defender I've saw in a long time. And if Maeda can get on top of him and Goldson, so that's as soon as you get on top of Goldson, that stops that big long diagonal that they love to knock down. So as long as Maeda's on his game, I think we could take. I think we'll win 2-1. To be honest, I'm actually confident we can beat them because I watched Rangers and they're just a physical second ball team in my opinion, and I think they'll be actually scared. I still think they're terrified of Kyogo. I've said it for a long time. I think they're absolutely terrified of Kyogo, so they'll be too busy concentrating on him, and then we could maybe your Matt O'Reilly will find space and Hatate hopefully find space. So I'm going for 2-1 Celtic.
What about you? In terms of favourites, you're making Celtic favourites for Sunday, right?
Yes.
I was going to come to the prediction of that.
Oh, sorry, apologies.
That's okay. That's okay.
In fact, I'll go and check. While you're talking, I'll go and check.
The reason I was raising that, I was wanting to run a couple of things past you, but Monty, about you, just in terms of not so much, as we sit now, who do you make favourites for the game?
Oh, I make them favourites.
Why do you make them favourites?
I think home advantage and the fact that they'll be starting with 13 with Beaton and what do you call him, Walsh and VAR, gives them an advantage. They have a starting advantage, Hector. We need to probably turn up at 100% to beat them on Sunday. So I make them favourites.
So that's the reason I was asking the question, guys. Was that I've been a wee bit of thought about this, and that's almost exactly how I think. Is that they've not just got the home advantage, which matters, right? They've got 50,000 or 49,000, whatever it is, right? There's no single Celtic fan there, and they've got John Beaton, which we discussed for 10-15 minutes as the referee, and on VAR, one of his friends. So if I sit here for Thursday night, I make them favourites to win the game this Sunday.
Yep.
So much has to go right for us on Sunday, on and off the field, to get a result. I'm not being paranoid because I've covered it all at the start of this conversation here. We have got to be almost squeaky clean in everything we do come Sunday to avoid them any opportunities in our penalty box to be given a penalty, because it will happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
We've got to be so good and so clean, and for that to happen, I think we've got to score first, and be scoring first to bring them up the pitch and give us space behind them to exploit that space. I think we're going to have to score at least two goals to come away with something on Sunday. As we stand right now, come the Sunday, come the game time, I'll be the rest is I'll be all pumped up and giving, here we go. But as things stand right now, I'll make them favourites based upon what we've just discussed.
See, I see it. Sorry, Monty. I see it a different. I'm just looking at the betting here. So, bet 365. Rangers are 5-4 favourites. Celtic are 2-1 against. Right. I see it a little bit different because I don't think they'll handle the pressure of having all. Tavernier said it years ago. We don't like playing in front of angry crowds. They won the league in front of no one. Mate, I honestly think if Celtic start to nullify, start to terrorise Golston and Suter at the back, they'll get anxious. The crowd will get anxious, and I think Celtic are professional enough to actually take the game, tear them, and win the game. I watched that Benfica game. I know Benfica's a lot better than us, but again, you could see if you go out and you play your game plan, execute it, they didn't have any answers. They might get a goal or two, but I still think.
See against Benfica, no, in terms of how they play, did they press Benfica? Did they try and squeeze Benfica out of the pitch?
No, it's the classic Goldson 60-yard diagonal. It's the classic Gary, what's his name? Gary Caldwell, 60-yard diagonal pass, knocked down, and guys charging for the midfield. So again,
did the defence tie up? What I'm getting is, did the defence, were they on the halfway line high up the defence?
Kind of in between the 18-yard line, the the centre spot, because again they recognised that Benfica could break on them. Benfica should have won it out of the park. But what I was
For
going to
me,
say,
that was my thought process. If
Aye.
they're playing a really high line against us, and based upon the pace that we've got, it could play into our hands. But
Yeah.
what they'll do is they're going to target. I'll tell you right now, they're going to target Scales and Taylor down our left-hand side.
Exactly.
If I'm their coach right now, that's my game plan for Sunday. I'm
Right.
targeting they two.
so that was my argument also. And exactly, that's what they'll do. They'll target our left-hand side. But also, from our perspective, they'll try and play the ball out for the back, because they try to. Butland plays it to Goldson. Goldson looks up and hits it 60 yards diagonal. That's the way they play. They don't bring out through the middle. So as long as we can contain them in that top half of their 18-yard box, I think they'll crumble. I honestly think they'll crumble. We just need to be right on top of them and have the guts to be on top of them. Anyway,
There's a great listen, Desi. It's Joe Rogan, one of his recent podcasts, with a guy called Billy Walters. I don't know if you've either heard of him. Billy Walters is a professional gambler. He's just wrote a book about it, and I had never really understood the intricacies of how these guys who do spread betting or they lay a bet, in American professional gamblers. He's been inducted into the Hall of Fame. Apparently you have a Hall of Fame for professional gamblers. And he talked about, in really, really simple layman terms, how they create a line for a bookie or how they handicap. And he says, really...
Sorry, Liverpool just scored 2-1 Liverpool.
Did they?
McAllister, 20 yards, top corner. What a goal.
It's not long left in that either, so there's not.
15 minutes.
So
sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
No. Billy Walters talked about how, and Rogan was asking him, how did you come up with the odds? Because man's made hundreds of millions from betting. And he's talked about when it was all analog before the internet, you'd just get all the local sports papers and you'd read everything and you'd understand everything about every team, and then you just give them a point. So in our case, you've got 11 versus 11 theoretically. Now remember, we've still got the ref and the VAR to score. But you'd start and literally go, okay, Joe Hart, is he worth a point, half a point, quarter of a point? Is he on form? And they just stack them up that way, and that allows them to set the odds. So if we go man for man across all 11 starting footballers, and arguably the bench, because he talked about bench and substitutes and replacements and all that, and they were all worth, is he the same value as the other guy, or do you lose half a point if he has to play? If you start Alistair Johnson versus Tavernier arguably wins that one simply because of his penalty record. Who knows? Carter Vickers versus Golson, no-brainer. Scales versus Suter, probably 50-50. Taylor versus Yilmaz, Taylor, I think. And then you get into midfield, and we probably pick up all 3 points there. And then you get to the forward lines, and we're probably picking up most of the points there too. So from Billy Walters' logic point of view, without being biased about it, we have the better players. But as Hector said over the last few podcasts, ironically, it's whoever's going to be least shit between us and them is probably going to go on and win the league. And I can only hope that the recent the recent pointers towards us coming back into form because of key personnel coming back, I'm hoping that's a pattern, and that's genuinely now where we are, because we're probably going to have to win 6 out of 7 in the last games to win the league.
Good point, right? So again, another. So this brings me to my final question. So, say for example, Hector, Rangers don't beat us in Sunday, right? We are level. We draw with them. We don't even beat them. We draw with them.
Yep.
And they've got to go and play Dundee during the week next week because they didn't want to play them last night. We're recording this on Thursday. They didn't want to play them this week, so they go away and they probably beat Dundee. Let's be honest. They probably beat Dundee to go top of the league. When will the SFA then, or the SPFL, whatever it's called these days, when will they schedule the final game during the split? Is that going to be the first game of the split?
One of the first ones, won't it? It's got to be because they want to avoid, they always do that, potentially being a league decider. So if there's only that, what you've just said there, if there's 2 points in it, and then there's 6 games to go after this Sunday, is that right?
Yep.
For us? One, then it's a split. It'll be either the first or second game after the split, won't it?
2 weeks. There'll be a second game. Guaranteed.
So the split will take place on Saturday, the 27th of May. Just reading here. I never realised the other day. I never realised
7th of April.
They have the split. They have the split in women's football and all, which I thought was a bit severe, considering like there's maybe 3 decent teams and the rest are trying their best. To be brutally honest,
you can say that about the league, Scottish Men's League.
Oh, I suppose
maybe there's 2 half decent
that's
teams.
Fair. That's fair, I suppose. Alright, so what we're saying there, post-split fixtures, was that last? Alright, that was last year, right, okay. So that happened on, the split top 6 started on May the 6th last year. So
can I ask you a question?
Yes,
right, we're almost ramping things up. So start with you first, Monty, right? If they win on Sunday, is the league over?
No, I don't believe so. 5-point gap, points to play. There's only so much cheating you can do without it coming back on you. It's just the law of the universe. I can't believe that they would get such a huge amount of assistance in the last 6 games that they wouldn't drop points. And all we need them to do is drop points in 1 game more than us, and then we beat them at Celtic Park. So, no, I don't believe Sunday defines it. But in many respects, and I'm not a particular fan of the blog, CQN, they wrote an article after the Libya game saying the decision's been made, we're not allowed to win the league this year. I wouldn't actually overly disagree with that sentiment. I think through our own devices and our own bad luck, really, this feels scripted for them. But short answer, back to that, no, it's not over yet. Theoretical 5-point gap because they've still got to beat Dundee. No, going in for 18 points left. No, we've turned around bigger, haven't we? Strachan and Tannadice.
How about you, Desi?
I may have to say Rangers would be favourites if they beat us on Sunday and then beat Dundee. Again, you don't know what the split is, but somehow every year we get told Rangers get a majority of their home games up front and then it'll balance out during the split. But somehow whoever ends up finishing 6th in the league throws a spanner in the works, and we always end up having more away games and having to play a Hearts 3 times at Tynecastle or a Kilmarnock 3 times at Rugby Park. So it'll be interesting to see what the actual split ends up being. In my opinion, just don't lose on Sunday and we'll win the league. If we lose on Sunday, then realistically I think we've got a 1 in 10 chance of winning it. I think they'd be heavy favourites. I can't see them losing any points at home, to be brutally honest, and they'll probably have at least 3 games at home after that, so I think they'd be quite...
I'm with you. See, if you offered me a draw right now, I would take it right now. I think we could win, obviously. I think we've got enough to beat them on Sunday. I would take a draw right now, and it puts everything in our hands. I think it's Celtic Park, and if the players are now all back now, assuming they all, with no more injuries, we're due a wee bit of, I wouldn't say luck, we're due to avoid a bit of bad luck, I would suggest, when it comes to injuries. But if we can keep our players now till the end of the season, and we come out of the game undefeated on Sunday, I think we'll win the remaining games in both the league and the cup. I think we'll do the double if we don't lose on Sunday. I think we'll get such momentum behind us with the players all back again that we'll really go on a great run. But for me, it's don't lose on Sunday. I would take a draw right now, although I still think we could win by a couple of goals.
Right.
I would take a draw.
Okay, so what's your prediction for Sunday? Which minute is the UK's highest scoring defender, James Tavernier, getting his penalty? And what's his final score going to be?
I'm going to go for 1 each Sunday.
Anybody getting sent off?
Such a difficult one. I mean, we're probably the 3 of us thinking here. We've got about 200 thoughts going through our heads right now, trying to think about referees and VAR, because we spent the last time talking about it and who the guys are that's doing the officiating, right? So there is a strong chance that could happen. I look at our players who could get sent off, but then again, Yang's probably the last player that I thought would get red carded, right? So there we go. So Kuhn, that absolute machete wielding madman Kuhn, he'll get red carded on Sunday.
Well, that's funny because I've literally bet my head on the last 3 games to get booked because I keep thinking he's going to get booked. But I had a dream there. Classic. I had a dream. I had a dream the other day, Monty, that Goldson gets sent off on Sunday. So I'm telling you now, that's my prediction. Goldson's getting sent off on Sunday. What's your predictions, Monty? Tav's penalty.
Wow. Wait a minute. So VAR, are you saying John Beaton's red card then? A Rangers player?
Yep, he can't help it because Kyogo's going to be running through in goal. Goldson's going to pull him down.
No, but so is Beaton going to? Hold on, no, but is Beaton going to red card the player, or is it VAR that's going to pull him out to ask him to look at?
Beaton's muscle memory is going to take over his biased thoughts. He's just going to automatically be. I'm telling you again. This is set up perfectly for shooting yourself in the face. They've got Beaton in, and we're all talking about how he's so biased, and then the game's going to play out. And it's going to actually blow up in our face, whereas he's going to have to send off one of their players. And it's not going to be it could have been a booking. It's going to be a blatant guy running through on goal, and he's going to hack Kyogo. I've seen it. I've seen it in my dreams.
See if Goldson was running about with a hatchet in his right hand.
Remember that?
And a hammer in his left, and he was smashing their players in the legs off the ball. I don't even think John Beaton would book him. Right,
penalty Rangers.
So I love your thinking, but I just don't see it. I think only a handball. See a goal line handball with a Rangers player, and even then, after Goldson, was it Goldson 2 years ago? I think to rethink that one actually.
No. Who remember? Was it Carlos Coelho or whatever his name? Remember he saved it for Nakamura. And do you remember that one? He saved it on the line for Nakamura, and there was a commentary handball. Get to fuck, red card. That's a classic Celtic commentary. Monty, what's your predictions then?
So I think if Beaton can influence the match in one decision, he'll do it. As in, if Tavernier's going to get a penalty, he's going to get it within the first 10 minutes, and Beaton will send a Celtic player. Right? That if he can do it. So this is back to Hector talking about us needing to be squeaky clean. Failing that, I think we'll beat them, and I think we'll beat them by 2. And I base that purely on your analysis around how they crumble under their own pressure. But Beaton's interference in the game has to happen early for them. If it doesn't happen early, it becomes more difficult for him to influence it. And ironically, you could see him brandishing a red card with muscle memory and Nick Walsh pulling him up and saying, "Don't think that was a red. Can you rescind that to a yellow?" And go and look at that again. I think he can do that too. So I think we'll win by a couple of goals. But, I'm kind of fucking splinters on my arse sitting on the fence. Like Hector, I'd take a draw now. But I think we'll win by a couple.
The tactics intrigue, I know about, I'll get back to the last game at Ibrox, right, when we were written off. Remember? And
Gales and Lager.
Third game or something, right? That's right. And look at the defence with that day. We were written off, and Beale played into our hands that day. They started off the first 5 minutes. In fact, they got a goal was just offside in the first few minutes, and it was offside. But immediately the tactic was to ping the ball diagonally into where Taylor and where Scales is, right, and try and physically bully us. But what Beale didn't do, which shocked all of us, we spoke about it in the podcast after it, he didn't pressure us. He didn't press us at all. They sat back, and Callum McGregor just dictated play. This is the bit that intrigues me. I'm not expecting Clement to do those tactics on Sunday. I think from the first whistle, he's going to have a go as and press us high. We've got to make sure we come out of that first 15, 20 minutes intact, and we don't crumble under the pressure. Because see, if they score first in the first 5-10 minutes, we're under so much pressure at that point. If we can see that out, and it's going to happen, I think potentially, and this is the bit about our pace we've got now, Kuhn's raised these games to levels we've not seen, as Desi touched upon. It's been great to see, but his pace is electric. Maeda's pace is electric, and Kyogo is now got space to move into, right?
Yep.
I think we could pick them off, but we've got to get through that first 15, 20 minutes when they're going to absolutely throw everything at us. Got to get through it.
So there we go. So we shall all take a draw, and we hope that the bookies' favourites don't win and Celtic come away with at least a draw, and that would set us up with a nice run into the split, regardless of whatever those fixtures are. Before I say thanks, I did have 2 things to do. One is just to highlight a play taking place by our old friend Jim Orr, who normally does the bend it like Bertie stuff. he's doing a play called Hodding the Jackets, and it's basically a Tommy Gilmore story about putting on the Pat Clinton. Remember Pat Clinton, Hector?
Yes, he was a kind of lightweight or featherweight.
Putting up so it's Tommy Gilmore's story. A good friend of ours, Bedford Falls, the Croy runner.
Yeah.
Putting on.
By the way, world class.
Exactly.
Mental distance runner.
Wearing that Team GB flag, but we'll let that one go. So it's Tommy Gilmore's story about putting on the Pat. Basically, his family have been boxing promoters for many generations, and it's putting on the Pat Clinton world title fight, and there's also a Q&A after it, and that's going to be in the Webster Theatre in Glasgow on the 19th and 20th of April. So if you fancy that, look that up. Yes, Hector?
Jim Hoare, do you know who, for those who are listening on the podcast, do you know who Jim Hoare is, what he was famous for in the past? I know he's involved with the Bender Beck and all that, Bratback and all that sort of stuff. You know, honestly, question for you guys.
I'm sure you
involvement. No, so you don't. Okay, and by the way, I didn't know this till recently. The Save Ourselves campaign, back with Fergus McCann came in and all that. The Save Ourselves for Jim was one of the main guys instrumental in the Save Ourselves. So big man in Celtic sports history. So big kudos to Jim.
Excellent, yeah, he's a lovely man. So if you can support that, Hodding the Jackets, Webster Theatre, Glasgow, 19th and 20th of April. And what I did, while we were talking there about the hate crime law bill, I was just making a wee note about Bertie Auld. Remember Bertie Auld and Tiny Wharton? Mr. Wharton, if I was to say you were an honest bastard, would you send me off? Yes, but if I was to think it, what would you do? I couldn't do anything. Well, Mr. Wharton, I think you're an honest bastard. That one, I don't know if that'll get you past the hate crime bill, folks out there, so don't take that as a legal advice, but you may want to consider that as we head towards Sunday. Right, so that is us. We've covered the game on Sunday. The dice will roll and we'll see where we are come Monday morning. Fingers crossed we're all smiling. I will be in Spain, so I'll let you know how that goes. It's left for me to say thank you very much to Hector Bandido. Thank you, Hector.
Thanks, guys.
And thank you very much to Monty Crackhouse Burns over the water. Thank you, Monty.
Thanks very much, guys. Enjoyed it.
All right, folks, thanks very much for listening. My name is Desmond. Good night.
Hey, yo, real hot tape. The Celtic get excited when we see you play. It's strange that this feeling grows more and more. We've never had a player